State Police, they don't only violate me, they violate all of you and me. And with that being said, we need to hear about what they're going to do here in 2022 about it. So let's talk about it. My children were illegally taken from me. My home was vandalized. I was lied about. I was charged with frivolous charges.
How much time do I have so I don't abuse my privilege here?
Oh, how much time do you need?
Why are we paying for that kind of bullshit?
Let's just say I'll try not to abuse the privilege.
About.
You already abused it by talking smack.
That's fine. Senators, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Bradley Myerson. I live in Pollitt. I recently retired after practicing law in Manchester for 38 years, largely criminal defense and some plaintiff's personal injury. During that time, I handled about 4 to 6 police misconduct cases, 2 of which went to trial.
He's about to handle more.
One of which was a plaintiff's verdict, the other was a hung jury. Now, qualified immunity, for some reason, and this was going back maybe 30 years, was not an issue in any of those cases. I don't remember why, but it certainly is an issue now.
Sure is.
I would like to start by kind of going maybe a 30,000 feet view of things. Why is this bill being proposed? Why abolish qualified immunity?
Because
You're the Senate Judiciary Committee.
nobody has the right to
Your
abuse
focus,
power
presumably, is to
or
create
humanity.
just laws based on sound policies to benefit the greatest number of individuals and not to favor a protected class or group of persons.
Police, attorneys,
Abolishing
and judges.
qualified immunity would
DCF
accomplish
judges.
that very goal of benefiting the greatest number of persons. It's very simple. The bill creates meaningful accountability for a taxpayer-funded arm of government
We the
that
taxpayers,
exerts enormous power and control over the citizenry. It does not create abolishing qualified community would not create what is known as strict liability. In other words, you just present your case and you've established liability with putting in a minimum amount of facts. It simply removes the unjust, judicially created doctrine that shields police from the consequences of their own wrongdoing.
I've already told you all
Now,
this.
I'm going to speak to
So I'm going to let you
one of the
listen to
objections that
the guy with the
we've
suit.
heard from opponents of the
Seems
bill.
like you don't want to hear it from me.
benefit of going
Okay.
last year is
I'll be back.
going through my notes of what folks had to say at last week's hearing. We heard a lot of alarmists from the law enforcement community telling us that abolishing qualified immunity will open the floodgates to frivolous lawsuits. And since I've done plaintiff's work, I can tell you
My lawsuits aren't frivolous,
we've heard
and they're
that
being
for
looked at.
years
Believe me when I tell you
from
that.
insurance
They're in
companies.
Washington, D.C.
When this committee and the legislature as a whole passed laws to broaden claimants' rights or to remove unjust defenses, such as the seatbelt defense. Frivolous lawsuits is simply a bad cliche that is being used in this bill to take away rights of claimants to seek compensation from the courts. There is no evidence beyond speculation.
That's why Judge Crawford said mine were frivolous, because he knows they're not. He wants to stop me from sanctioning the state and the
There's
government.
no evidence that abolishing qualified immunity would somehow, use another cliche, open the floodgates to a wave of frivolous lawsuits against the police. The statute is worded in such a way that it limits frivolous lawsuits because it adopts what's called the English rule, which is that the loser pays. It's if the court, and this I'm referring to subsection D, judgments entered in favor of defendant, the court may award reasonable attorney's fees and other litigation costs reasonably incurred occurred to the defendant for defending any claims the court deems frivolous. So that is a significant check against the fear that abolishing qualified immunity would open the floodgates to frivolous lawsuits. And I'm not wild about this portion of the bill. I understand that there's a reason for it being in there. There are very, very few statutes in Vermont which incorporate the English rule that the loser pays. But I'm comforted by the fact that a court has the discretion to determine whether a lawsuit is frivolous, a lawsuit against police or a department of both is frivolous or not. So
right there, I'm going to stop that and I'm going to tell you, all the lawsuits that I filed, I carry a trail of paperwork, documentation, exhibits, photos, letters, audio recordings, and surveillance, okay, to prove my cases. Every single case that I have filed, I still have all the proof and evidence of. The facts to back up my claims in the lawsuits. With that being said, it's no wonder that the state of Vermont continues to try to silence me. But you can only silence the truth for so long before the truth prevails. Just like a repeat of history, the government's trying to destroy history. But you all need to be aware, and most of you are, history does repeat itself. Just like all of the criminal acts that the police keep on committing against people, it's a repeat of history. And now they're begging for the immunity not to be abolished, but it needs to be, and that's why. They're begging for it because they know they're doing wrong. And it's about time that you all stand up for your rights as well as I stand up for mine. I'm going to continue to stand up for mine because Judge Crawford in Burlington, Vermont, and his do-boy, Jeffrey Eaton, who's in charge of the Department of Justice, and TJ Donovan, who's the Attorney General, and then you got Patrick Leahy, and then you got Joe Benning, and then you got Bernie Sanders. You see, any politician that's an attorney, that's a conflict of interest. Any attorney that knows a judge, any police officer that knows the judge, it's all a conflict of interest. So therefore, the whole state of Vermont, the police, the organizations, state's attorney, prosecuting attorney is what he's called, okay, which would be Vincent Aluzzi, all the judges, Department of Justice, Jeffrey Eaton, United States Postal Service, what happened to my mail? They're all a conflict of interest because you see the federal court is upstairs over the United States Postal Service. And Jeffrey Eaton oversees Department of Justice, who oversees all the police and coincides with TJ Donovan, the Attorney General, who makes the rules and regulations, correct? And then you get the governor. Where does he come in? So with all that being said, let's hear some more, because my cases are not frivolous. They have been deemed as frivolous by Judge Crawford, but I, as a citizen and a resident of the United States, deem Judge Crawford to be the frivolous one. So therefore, I have filed an investigation request into the judge's misconduct from probate level to federal level. Conflict of interest, request of change of venue, DC. Here we go. So this is part one. Stay tuned for part two.